Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Guberman Appleby Immigration Lawyers YouTube channel. Thank you for watching another episode of Immigration in the News. Today we're discussing an article that was in the Globe and Mail on April 21st, 2025. Harvard economist sees parallels between Trump, Mao, and Castro. We're not going to do a deep dive into the political leanings of these historic and current political figures, but the individual interviewed in this article, an economist by the name of Richard Hausman, did make some interesting comments that are relevant to Canadian immigration. The journalist asked him, "Are you, like some of your academic colleagues, thinking of moving to Canada?" The economist's response was that it's a fantastic opportunity for Canada to become a scientific and technological powerhouse, and that these are skills that are very hard to develop from a human perspective, but easy to attract. And his thoughts were that as the US becomes inhospitable to intellectual workers, countries that are able to attract them and create an environment for their flourishing have the opportunity to become technological and academic powerhouses. This is, I think, a very interesting opportunity for Canadian academic institutions. As you and I know, it is not uncommon for universities to hire academics from abroad who are very specialized, highly skilled, highly knowledgeable in their different fields. What does this look like for academics who are currently in the US from an immigration perspective to come to Canada?
Well, this is an opportunity for a fantastic reverse brain drain. Rather than the outflow of academia and brilliance to the United States and other countries, this is a phenomenal opportunity for Canada to seize upon some disgruntled academics, brilliant scientists, etc. in the United States who, because, let's face it, because of the present administration, feel that their freedom of thought and pursuing their careers is curtailed.
Obviously, this gentleman is not an immigration lawyer. The key thing is that in order for any of these brilliant academics to come here, the very first thing they would need is a job offer from one of Canada's esteemed academic institutions. And then, of course, there needs to be an immigration strategy in place for them to get here, which the starting point is, of course, a work permit. I think there's two different pools of academics who might potentially come to Canada from the US if they had the appropriate job offer, and that's American citizens. Or it could be one of the, and I'm sure there's thousands of highly respected, very expert level in niche areas, foreign academics who are currently in the US pursuant to various work authorization status, who I'm sure are all starting to get a little freaked out.
To facilitate that, we have the former North American Free Trade Agreement for American citizens, now CUSMA, which permits all kinds of scientists and teachers at colleges and universities to gain very quick access to Canada. And in terms of foreign workers in the United States at that level, there's also the vehicles, of course, depending on what country they're from. Perhaps Canada can seize on this opportunity and make a clearer and easier path for those who don't have an easy path, much like they did when Canada seized upon the H-1 overfill and allowed for 10,000 people who were not given H-1B visas in the United States and filled them extremely quickly.
Well, that's a very interesting proposition. Now we just have to get it into the right hands. Aside from being a teacher, if you have a job offer at university or college, the CUSMA list also includes research assistants, lots of opportunities even for people who might be on J-1s in the United States, because you don't necessarily have to be a full-fledged professor to take advantage of that. Sorry, not J-1s, because if you're coming under CUSMA, you're American. Perhaps if there's some Mexicans, since Mexicans also can access the provisions of the Canada-US-Mexico agreement. Interestingly, under the Canada-Chile trade agreement, professors are actually specifically noted profession in that free trade agreement for the purposes of work permits.
Well, Well, the opportunities is unbelievable for Canada. I mean, it's not unknown for Canada to seize upon these world events to seek an opportunity for doing better in our academic portfolio, if you will, and this is just made for it.
And that's actually interesting because what Canada tends to seize on a lot is to provide humanitarian opportunities for people to come here when there's strife in different regions. This is an opportunity to help people out who would be in a position to hit the ground running. As you said, the reverse brain drain.
Several of the universities in Canada make the top 100 list of universities of late in the world, but this is an opportunity for a great deal more universities to notch up their standing in the world, and for those big universities that do very, very well. The University of Toronto is noted as a great research institution. To really notch that up, Canada must seize on this opportunity and facilitate that movement.
And then, of course, outside of those agreements, there is always the labor market impact assessment route. It's a route that can typically be quite complicated. It's a bit more streamlined for universities. The advertising requirements are a little bit lighter. From that perspective, Employment and Social Development Canada, which is the government arm that facilitates LMIAs, is well aware of the value and importance of getting academics here.
Of course, there is a flip side, and this is somewhat negative of this, and that is Canada, in its slightly more restrictive policy towards students of late, has really chopped away at the university's funding because foreign students have a less easy time to get to Canada, less easy time once in Canada. If universities and colleges don't have the funding, then they're not going to be able to get these wonderful people who would otherwise desire to be here. So there has to be a governmental thought process to make this viable and a benefit to Canada.
And there's also opportunities for postdoctoral fellows, research award recipients, even under the prestigious Canada Research Chair program. There's an allotment and specific procedure to get work permits for people who are eligible for that. I agree with you. There has to be a thoughtful approach to this. Your point on perhaps the lack of funding is well taken, but maybe if you get these big brainy academics in, then you can somehow get more grants and money.
Of course, we have an election coming up in a very few days, and it'll behoove the new government, whoever that happens to be, to do something about this.
That's right. So stay tuned for our post-election episode where we'll perhaps be able to discuss some of the immigration changes that the new Prime Minister, whoever that may be, will bring to the table. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to follow us on Instagram, Guberman Appleby, on TikTok at Guberman Appleby. Of course, you're already here on our YouTube channel. You are welcome to contact us on any of our social media platforms or by email, info@gaimmlaw.com, or give us a call. Thank you so much. Have a great day.